Alright, so today we're going to be talking about Meliodas. I'll be covering his feats, his powers, and I'll be doing his scaling. Everything will be proper. I will not calc stack abuse. I will not take unbacked statements, and I will be separating out the attack potency from the destructive capacity shown. That said, let's get into it. So, first things first, speed. Given how important speed is in a series, let's look at his speed. I'm going to get straight to his best feats, which are properly at the end of the series, where a base Meliodas is able to jump from Elizabeth to the Demon King and clash before a bolt of natural lightning from a thundercloud could come down to the ground. Now this is as pure a speed feat as it gets, but let's get it straight here. He's not like speed blitzing the lightning. Speed, again, is measured in distance divided by time. And the distance the lightning traveled is an unknown amount, but is at least the same as Meliodas, if not more, given the panels. And it coming from a cloud as well. So it's minimum at the same distance as Meliodas, but most likely more. However, it also, distance divided by time, the time it takes there is also slightly more time than Meliodas, given that Meliodas beat the lightning to the Demon King. But all things considered, if both Meliodas and that bolt of lightning were to horizontally rush the Demon King at the same time, like a race, if he was to race that bolt of lightning, Meliodas wins. In base, mind you. But he is not in some crazy light speed calculation off of this. Still, this is very impressive. What's more impressive is this, where now a bolt of natural lightning is about to slam into Elizabeth from a very close distance, which again is a key role in speed, where he comes in and counters it. Given he's off panel, the distance Meliodas traveled is unknown, but the minimum still puts him at much faster than lightning at his absolute full power. There's simply no way around it, and it is also consistent in the scaling of the series. One thing to note here is that the downward stroke of lightning is around 220,000 miles per hour, whereas it's the return stroke of a lightning bolt that goes 1/3 the speed of light. He is not going anywhere as close to the speed of the return stroke, let alone light. Light being 670 plus million miles per hour, for comparison, which is around 3,048 times faster than the downward stroke that he's decently faster than. All things considered, for full power Meliodas, his speed should at minimum be speeds of around Mach 1303, and that is some insane speed. And note, I am taking a minimum. Cool. So with speed covered, let's delve into strength and attack potency, where I'll be starting with this very impressive feat from very early in the series. So here we see casual giant hill splitting, destructive capacity, and being as it was from but the air pressure of his swing, we know that the attack potency is actually a minimum of a giant hill split. So basically, if you had the durability of an enormous hill of rock, he could literally split you from distance with a twig casually, let alone the actual physical strike. Something I tend to multiply up based on the distance the kinetic energy had to travel, making his actual strike have a potency of at least 500 times more. Or in another way, if he can do this with the air pressure, you could make this hill 500 times more durable, and with his actual strike, he'd split it just the same. Now some people consider this feat like mountain splitting. Mountains are again generally about 2,000 feet above sea level, or around 2,000 feet above their surrounding areas. This is very impressive, but this does not scale to a mountain. Still very impressive. Going on with the fact that it is air pressure, consider this. Try hitting a car with a sword. Note how much damage you would do, whatever the damage would be. Now hit the air 1 foot away from the car, in front of it. How many more times more powerful would your strike have to be to match the damage of your first direct strike? Now move yourself this distance away. We all get the idea here. So next, we have the Gil Thunder Spear feat, where, of course, Gil Thunder, he charges a spear with his energy, and it is sent hurling from his location towards Burnia, where Meliodas is. This spear, as you can see, made it there, and upon being caught by someone, again, with enough strength to casually split giant hills in half with the air pressure, it lifts him off the ground, craters the ground upon his feet landing, then drug him through building after building until he finally could stop the momentum. That crazy momentum it was carrying? Note, once again, he's doing this casually and in base. These are all early feats in the series, which is important for scaling purposes. So, Gil Thunder, again, he at one point, he also attacked Meliodas with this, which sent shockwaves that could be felt multiple city blocks away. Further still, while not Meliodas himself here, Galland shows us that with most of the energy being put towards a non-full power Escanor from his swing, as the swing is actually hitting into Escanor, it's the leftover energy. His actual just leftover force was strong enough that the air pressure, once again air pressure, did all of this. And as we know, in terms of end of series, he's garbage tier in strength. Hell, Assault Mode Meliodas in the past, remember this? Once again, noting the air pressure of the punch he tanked, this series is actually quite consistent with its feats until the very end where it gets a little less reliable. But scaling wise, Galland's physical strength, nothing to suppressed Escanor, who is nothing to the one Escanor of the past. Even that Assault Mode Meliodas in the past tanked with no problem, and even close to one shot back. Scaling from Escanor's growth in power as he fought Meliodas, so now we will bring in some of that scaling. When he did fight Escanor, when his memory was changed back to when, of course, everybody knows, when he was back to the mindset of him being the leader of the 10 Commandments. We see Meliodas with a power of 142,000, casually toy with Escanor, who, upon powering up to 114,000 power, was simply one shot and on the ground. It made no difference. Note, this difference is but around a 25% difference in total power, the 142,000 to the 114,000. That's only like a 25% difference in total power. And we see here, when Escanor does land a full punch, it does about nothing. But when Meliodas lands a punch, insane difference. But, as the one, now Meliodas' actual sword attacks, not just his punch, his actual sword attacks, do nothing. And instead, now it's Meliodas who is one shot, not simply to the point of needing to grasp for air or just to drop to his knees, actually knocked out in one attack. Given this, naturally, we know as the one, in this particular fight, his power level would have been at least a minimum of 177,500, given the 25% increase and what it's showing through battles. But obviously it's more. We know it's minimum that, but it's more probable around 200,000 as a safe minimum even. But this is important because this also gives us an idea, like a scale to go by, given that throughout the series, once again, I will say, the feats and power levels are actually pretty consistent throughout until the end, where again, they're a little hazy. But so a lot of people pull numbers, for example, in different series. I'm saying 142,000 compared to 114,000. There's nothing that contradicts it, and given that the scaling goes with their numbers throughout the series, they're certainly allowable. So, given all this, what's important to note is this allows us to see feats like this, and we can get an idea of what he'd be capable of more so towards the end. All said and done, we're looking at someone with actual country level, really country plus level, like getting into large country level attack potency, where the concentration of the force, aka the potency, in his attacks can actually take out the combined durability of an entire country to large country within a single spot. So this isn't simply how much he can destroy, this isn't only his AoE. The attacks are actually potent enough that the surface area of a human-sized person with country to large country levels of durability would be heavily injured or killed. The last section of this will be quick, as I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I'll be covering some of his powers, and note, this is full power Meliodas who can be killed. Remember, he can be killed by the end. So, to start, yep, we have full counter. We have counter vanish, so the attack doesn't have to be returned, such as what full counter of course does. As well, we have revenge counter, such that he can store damage and return that. His sacred treasure allows him to split his power into 5 clones that, while weakening his stats, his hacks has shown to stay at full power. The above different counters. He has darkness and fire manipulation. With the fire used, it's shown to be able to permanently scar Ban, who could revive non-scarred from everything else shown. And his darkness, of course, has been used to make wings to different weapons, whole slew of different things. He, of course, also has pretty decent regeneration, on top of, once again, the flight from like the wings that he's been able to make, and has also shown a pretty decent resistance to hacks as well. So, everything considered here, who makes for a good fight for Meliodas, leader of the 7 deadly sins? I have someone in mind, so check out my next video to see who it is. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoy the next videos that are to come. Ciao.